What's up everybody, welcome back to a brand new video on Lexalexus. Today we're going through the championship review of match day 14. We've got quite a fair bit to discuss in today's video. We've also got two games to predict in midweek as well, both of them being from match day 9, which of course was postponed due to the very sad passing of Queen Elizabeth. So two of those games are going to be caught up in two midweek games as well. So we've got a lot to discuss. Before we move on, this is what the updated standings look like in the Lexalexus Football Prediction League for the Championship. I have finally caught up with standings, and it's good news for me because I now move up to second place. Wallace and Guan fan still a very commanding lead, but now I've moved up a couple of places since the international break as well, which was the last time I actually posted an updated standings of the Prediction League. So it's been long overdue, and I apologise for the delays, but it's now up to date. The Premier League one will also be updated very soon as well. If you guys like what you see, please give the video a like and just try to see up the channel. Please do hit the subscribe button as we're pushing for 1,500 subscribers and 2,000 subscribers being the big target. It'll be absolutely amazing if you can get there, and please also continue to share the content as that really does help the growth of this channel too. But without any further ado, let's start talking through what happened in this weekend's games. Let's start off with QPR and Reading, which I watched live as a watch-along. It was a 2-1 victory to QPR, which was exactly what I predicted. And I actually rather enjoyed this game, actually. It wasn't gone, without any controversial decisions. There definitely was a couple of controversial decisions, especially when it came to penalties, where it seemed that QPR were denied a stone wall penalty with Hutchinson seemingly handballing the ball, and minutes later Reading get a penalty of their own where it did look like Lucas Jow was doing his best Tom Daly impression. It was a penalty that Andy Carroll scored, 1-0 Reading going into half-time, until a couple of minutes later actually it was the birthday boy, 27-year-old Lyndon Dykes, getting the header to make it 1-1. Justice was served, was a draw at half-time, and then the game just kept swinging. Reading had a good spell in the start of the second half. Rangers were really under pressure, but Rangers started getting a little bit more attacking and had more chances, and then eventually Lyndon Dykes again scoring from the penalty spot. That one maybe not being as clear-cut as their first original penalty, but it was a penalty that ultimately decided the outcome of the game, and alas, it was given to QPR. And because of this, QPR are now joint top of the championship, which is a really good achievement, and Michael Beale deserves a lot of credit. Look at that, 3 wins in a row, 4 wins in their last 5. They've done really well. Reading away from home, I'm still not 100% convinced with them, but the fact they're still on 22 points and actually still relatively comfortable within that part of the table, Reading and Paul Ince still have a lot to be proud of. And I gotta say, I think their squad is decent considering the options they had on the bench. I actually think Reading did really well to compete with a very confident QPR side, but QPR going forward, without Chris Willock especially, that I thought they were going to be severely disadvantaged, they actually coped with their absence very well, and it shows me that there are some other players in QPR that can step up to the plate and can definitely put in a good performance. So I'm really impressed with QPR here. Another team that's impressed me is Birmingham, as they smash Bristol City by 3-0. The stat that really shocks me though about Bristol City, based on how much I praise their attacking quality, is this: only 1 shot on target they had in the entire game. Birmingham having 10 shots and 5 of them being on target, looking a lot more likely Birmingham to get a goal. You can see here, look at that first half, wasn't particularly great at all, but Birmingham's 2 shots on target was their 2 goals. If you go to the second half, Birmingham actually had more shots on target and scored less. Benny made some brilliant saves to actually prevent the scoreline from getting even more embarrassing for Bristol City. I am getting a little bit worried with them now, because it is now winless in 5 Bristol City for them now, and they're down all the way down to 18th. From starting so well, they dropped so low, and Birmingham actually overtake them with points now, up to 16 points now and 14th place in the table. The hero of that game was Aaron Trusty, the defender on loan from Arsenal, scoring 2 goals, and Dion Sanderson also getting on the score sheet as well. And I've got to say, I think the signings have been a big impact for Birmingham this season, and it's something I didn't foretell. So Birmingham, fair play to you, and I hand on my heart saying at this moment of time, I'm very sorry that I had little faith in you, because clearly the signings I think have really elevated you. And with Bristol City, I feel a little bit silly now I'm predicting them in my top 6 of my updated predictions now. Another 3-0 home win goes to Blackburn Rovers as they beat Rotherham by 3-0. It's another game played by Rotherham's new manager, Matty Taylor. It's his first defeat in charge, and it's quite a heavy defeat for Rotherham as well. It's their joint heaviest defeat so far this season, the same as Sunderland, who also beat them by 3-0. It started with Ben Brereton Diaz scoring from the penalty spot, but then in the second half, I actually think Rotherham weren't too bad. For what I know in terms of the report, Rotherham actually started very well and actually were more likely to score, but Blackburn, as they normally do, they break, they find moments in play to get a good moment. They win a penalty, score there, and then Brereton Diaz again on the score sheet again to make it 2-0. And then Sammy Smoldick's even getting involved as well, and he got a goal and an assist in that game as well. So very impressive performance by Ben Brereton Diaz and Sammy Smoldick to get that win for Blackburn there. Stats wise goes, looking at 90 shots to 9, you could definitely see that Blackburn were effective in the way they play and actually outpossessed them as well. Blackburn still find themselves just outside the top 6, would need to improve their consistency away from home, but if they can, I think Blackburn could be decent. Rotherham, you can see they're falling down just that tiny bit, winless in 4. Their last win coming up against Blackpool, which was actually the last watch-along I saw with Rotherham as well. So since I watched Rotherham beat Blackpool by 3-0, they've not won a game, and they really need to try and get their act together soon. I think Matty Taylor just trying to adjust a couple of things, getting used to some of the players, might take a little bit of time, and Rotherham could turn good in the end, but if it's going to be a start for a decline for them, it's going to be a real shame that, we saw what they were capable of when they had Paul Warne at the helm. This is without a shadow of a doubt for me Blackpool's best win so far this season, to beat Watford by 3-1. It's only their second home win of the season as well, hence why I've not predicted many home wins for Blackpool so far this season. But I did have a nagging feeling that Watford were not at their best, and Blackpool were actually quite unlucky not to get more points based on their performances. And what showed here is that, at the start, it actually turned out to be that way when Gary Medine scored first from a Karen Connolly assist to make it 1-0. Imran Louza, however, with some great individual quality, making it 1-1. And that's what it went to half-time. And actually, most of Watford's attacks just came right straight after that, actually. They did pepper Blackpool a little bit. But, like what I said already with the QPR Reading game, it just sometimes swings the momentum and other teams just have a good spell within them. And Blackpool started to test Daniel Batman in goal in the final 15. And then Jerry Yates went through a massive goal spree, 2 goals in 4 minutes, assisted by Hamilton and Lavery respectively, which really put Blackpool over the line. And fair play to them on that part, because that increases their chances to get away from the bottom 3. 15 points they find themselves now with a 4-point gap and 19th place, which is not a terrible position for Blackpool to be in, to be honest. Watford, on the other hand, they are very perilously close to falling down in the lower half of the table. And Bilic has already suffered the same amount of defeats that Edwards has had, in 8 less games than what Edwards had. And that is really poor, unfortunately. And I think it's now looking like that the players are almost down in tools, or they're just having a lack of confidence. Either way, Watford need to resolve this as soon as they can, because definitely the expectation, I think, is definitely halting the progress and the flow of this team going forward. Coventry takes defeat for the first time in 5 games as Burnley edge out winners by 1-0. It was a performance that Burnley won't be proud of. I think even Vincent Kompany even mentioned in his interview that this is not a performance that he wants to see from Burnley going forward. But what Burnley did manage to do is that they still were able to hold on for the 3 points despite not playing well. It sucks for Coventry. They're on catch-up right now. On the whole, they played quite well. They hit the woodwork, I definitely know that. But unfortunately for them, the goal they conceded was just simply very poor defending. A simple ball over the top, and Nathan Teller just finding it way too easy. That is what Coventry do need to work on. They do need to work on just being switched on constantly and not to get done with very simple goals. Because Burnley are very versatile. They could be direct and they could definitely be a little bit over-possessive as well. And alas, a direct attack was what undid Coventry. So it's like they need to get the basics right there. And I'm a bit worried about that if they're making those sorts of mistakes at this level. As with Burnley, it actually puts them back in contention in terms of the top three. Burnley are only within 2 points off the top three actually, and they've still only lost one game so far this season, so they're definitely doing well not to lose many games. But I do have a slight nag that I think at the moment that they're not really quite performing at the same flow, confidence and swag that we saw in the top three so far. So definitely improvements to be made, but definitely the results are not disappointing at the moment. As with Coventry, I'd be slightly worried, honestly. I know Burnley's always a tough team to play up against, but looking at the table now with 10 games being played, with only one win in those 10, and the gap being, look at that. You have got 6 points as your gap to get into 21st place now. It's going to be even more difficult for Coventry if they cannot get some consistency down. Millwall inflict more misery on Middlesbrough despite being managerless as they beat them by 2-0. And Millwall's form has been very hit and miss, honestly. And I'm just pleased for them that now it looks like that they've got a really good goal scorer in one of their signings in Zian Fleming. He scored both goals in this game, and I can definitely see the Millwall crowd warming to him already. And there was a couple of people that kind of complained about the squad, for the fact that there was no Charlie Cresswell, a couple of players being missing there. But despite that, it does seem like to me that Rowett's definitely getting a squad that he prefers to try and go with. And it definitely performed very well, as they did manage to beat Middlesbrough by the looks of things relatively comfortably. As you can see, 9 shots to 7. Middlesbrough only having 1 shot on target. So likewise with Bristol City, very little attack going forward there, and it's really been that first half if you look at that there, and even the second half being quieter, Millwall still was able to increase their lead from them there. So Millwall definitely deserved the win by the looks of things there. 13th place now. If they can improve their consistency, Mill could be a good team, but with Middlesbrough now, I don't know who I think could take over that will definitely turn it around for Middlesbrough at the moment. There's Michael Carrick being linked, but I'm not personally sure that he's going to be the right option to try and turn us around. I think likewise with Watford, I think expectation is exceedingly just killing Middlesbrough's confidence and flow, and their just confidence, I think. So they definitely need to try and reset and try again. This for me, without a shadow of a doubt, is the game of the Championship weekend. Norwich 2, Preston 3. To put the stats into this game, Preston were only 1 goal short of matching the amount of goals they scored in their first 12 games than they did in just this one game alone. It's incredible, really. Reece Jacobson as well. He's looking like that he's starting to get his goal scoring form as well. That's 3 goals for Reece Jacobson in his last 2 games. We'll see if this is the sort of form that Reece Jacobson was just waiting for. I think just more confidence, more tenacity. And I think Norwich, underestimated what Preston were about. Josh Sargent took a very early lead. Reece Jacobson managed to get the equaliser, and then in the second half, Preston take the lead. Gabriel Sara originally got the equaliser, but within 4 minutes after that, Troy Parrott, who's been ridiculed a little bit for actually having the worst conversion rate out of all the strikers in the Championship, he now finally gets his goal to make it 3-2, and Woodburn getting the assist as well. You can definitely kind of visualise what sort of attack they were definitely making for that front there. 3-2 Preston, and honestly, with 7 minutes of added time, it would have been hot, in your mouth moment for a Preston offence, man. And I think Norwich did have a goal disallowed as well. So Preston fans very nervy, but the fact that they were even involved in an entertaining game is going to feel really refreshing for this Preston team. And actually, whilst that technique can sometimes be a bit bland and frustrating, it gets you a good position in the table. They're 8th place with 19 points, and actually Preston could just be a little bit more expansive with their attack. Preston could be really decent. With Norwich, they missed a real big opportunity to extend potentially and overtake Sheffield United and get a lead at the top, because Sheffield United also lost this weekend as well. So opportunity missed, but overall I do think Norwich will be okay. I just honestly think that this was just a bad day defensively for them. We were just talking about Sheffield United losing a game. Well, this was that game against a Stoke City side where I think likewise for the likes of Blackpool and Millwall, really inconsistent, but when they definitely have the advantage to get a result against a team low in confidence, they always take it. They're on 16 points, and I think this was definitely their best win with Alex Neil so far as their manager there. It was Stoke pretty much from minute one that really controlled things. Ben Wilmot getting the lead with ex-Sheffield United player Phil Jagielka getting the assist. Ream Brewster equalises, so it's good to see Brewster finally back on the score sheet. We'll see if he can kick on, potentially score more goals. Phil Jagielka again involved, this time as the goal scorer against his former club, with Lewis Baker this time getting the assist. And then the difference in the end, when we got to stoppage time, Liam Delap put Sheffield United to the sword. Tyrese Campbell getting the assist. Loads of changes from both teams to try and change things, but unfortunately for Sheffield United, whilst they did have more of the attacking momentum in the second half, and it did look like that in some areas that they were there, but look at this here, especially second half, where you're expecting Sheffield United to try and chase back into this game, to have 0 shots on target with 59% of the ball. Looks like to me that they've run out of ideas a little bit, trying to break down this Stoke side. But for Stoke, great win for them, and we'll see if they can kick on from potentially that 3 points right now. But that's definitely their best win so far this season. Swansea are continuing their brilliant form, and it's definitely put Swansea's manager Russell Martin in contention to win Manager of the Month. Because if you look at this form here, it's 4 wins in a row. They're the most in-form team in the Championship right now, and it's going to be very, very interesting to see if any team can stop them on their stride. 21 points they're on right now, and they're in the top 6 relatively comfortably as well. Sunderland, they suffer I think their 4th defeat so far this season, and as you can see here, it's 4 games that they've not won. Sunderland, so they're in a bit of a losing streak, or a winless streak I should call it, and I definitely think a big problem of that is really just down to the injuries of their strikers. You could see with the stats that it's just was Swansea that just edged it overall. I mean, the second half you could definitely see it was a lot closer, and actually Sunderland technically won the second half with them scoring in the second half, but the damage was done for Swansea within the first half. Oliver Cooper and Harry Darling getting the goals. Jack Clark trying to reduce the deficits, but they had all this time, Sunderland, to try and get something. And unfortunately for them, they've been so reliable scoring later on. They just didn't find that spark this time. So it's 2-1 Swansea. Great win for the Swans. Sunderland definitely need to try and find other ways to play without relying on Ellis Sims and Ross Stewart. West Brom and Luton ends as a 0-0 draw, and it just feels like a very depressing vibe at West Brom at the moment. They're in the bottom 3. They've got this joint least win so far this season. 1 win in 13 games is atrocious. It's absolutely atrocious for any manager to have that form. There's definitely controversy. There's been some stuff on social media that's been targeting Bruce and his family a little bit. It is getting very incredibly hostile. It's West Brom's worst start to a Championship season in the millennial, at least. So it's definitely quite a really dark, dull moment within their career, unfortunately, within the club's history in especially the 21st century. Luton, they get another point on the board with an away point. I mean, I don't think they've got too many complaints. Luton are in a relatively good position at the moment, go through an unbeaten run at the moment, and if West Brom definitely were the better side in terms of trying to force chances, Luton did well to even try and subsidise them completely. I mean, it looked really, really dull the whole game. Only 3 shots on target each. West Brom having 12 and then 5 off target. Looking like to me that their biggest problem is just being incredibly wasteful with the chances that they got. I don't normally call for managers to get sacked, but right now I honestly think Bruce could serve his last couple of days as West Brom manager. Because I pre-record these videos, I always miss it when the manager actually goes. So I'm actually not going to be too surprised if West Brom may part company with Steve Bruce whilst I'm working since this video goes out. Last one of the Saturday games, we saw Wigan lose again at home to Cardiff by 3-1. Wigan officially with the worst home record in the league, and it's really going to be a big problem for them if they cannot get it sorted. Callum Robinson was the big difference. I mean, he scored very early on in the 7th minute, and I think when Cardiff had that lead, I think the fact that Wigan had to try and react, I think definitely put them under the pressure. Shea Ojo made it 2-0 in the 65th minute. By that time, I just think it was a bit of a mountain to climb. Charlie Wyke made things very interesting, making it 2-1, but Ryan Wintle made it game, set and match, scoring in the 92nd minute, and ultimately, for what I can see, it did look as though, I mean, look at that, 6 shots on target, and Wigan to only have 1 shot on target, which was their goal. Once again, just looking like to me, to have 10 shots and only 1 of them being on target, you'd have to be incredibly wasteful as a team. Looking like that Cardiff even hit the woodwork as well, so potentially even unlucky that Cardiff didn't win by more. So yeah, Wigan really need to work on this at home form at the moment, because it is definitely affecting their progress of this season at the moment. As with Cardiff, that form that they're in is proving to be a bit of a stroke of genius. Back-to-back wins now, and now in 10th place as well. Maybe Cardiff are turning into a really good corner now in their season. Final game to talk about is Huddersfield and Hull, and this was a very crucial 2-0 win for Huddersfield. And Huddersfield, you know, you would have looked at Hull actually being a relegation rival now, looking especially how close Hull are to the relegation zone. Despite Hull winning in midweek, I thought this might potentially kick on with a small managerial bounce before they appoint an official new manager, but it goes crashing down to earth immediately, and Huddersfield with a new manager now, looking like that they've now started to get things a little bit organised now. Only 1 defeat sandwiched within the 4 games he's been in charge of so far. You can see that they got that win against Cardiff there, and then you got the 3-3 draw, which Huddersfield actually took the lead quite a few times in that game, and then eventually managing to get that 2-0 win there. You can see the improvements that Huddersfield are making with this new manager. So Huddersfield fans, it's not all doom and gloom for you. You may have an opportunity to get out of it, especially points wise. I mean, you are only 2 points off relegation now, so that's real positive there. Hull looking like they had a little bit more of the ball, but in terms of shots on target, you can definitely see, I mean, especially in the second half, the game was a little bit more open, and Huddersfield just completely stretching Hull, bit back and forward with the momentum, Hull potentially pushing at the end because they were having to chase 2 goals. But overall, I'm really impressed about Huddersfield's control throughout that game, really. Louis Cole getting the own goal, so unfortunate for his part there, and Michael Healy making it game over. So yeah, good win for Huddersfield, and with Hull, the sooner they appoint a manager who's got championship experience, the better, because I am getting quite worried about Hull's form at the moment. So that is me talking about all the championship games for match day 14. This is what the championship table looks like after all of those games have been played. Sheffield United and Norwich still top 2 in that order, despite losing both of their games this weekend as well. That's a good weekend for QPR though. They're now joint top with Sheffield United and Norwich when they won that early game against Reading. Burnley overtake Reading therefore up to 4th place, and Swansea occupying that last playoff place. In terms of the bottom 3, it still remains the same with West Brom, Huddersfield and Coventry, but Coventry cut adrift a bit, 6 points off safety. Huddersfield getting a real increased chance now of potentially trying to get survival, with only 2 points behind 21st place Middlesbrough, who are still looking for a manager. So before I close off the video today, we've got 2 games going on in the Championship in midweek, where I may potentially do a watch along for, so keep your eyes if I'm doing a watch along and not. Wigan and Blackburn Rovers, a Lancashire derby to talk about. I'm almost certain that I would have predicted potentially a Wigan win when I first predicted this, but looking at this now, especially for how Wigan have been really poor at home, Blackburn have been pretty poor away from home though, and I don't think they'll have Ben Brereton Diaz here. It looked like that he picked up an injury in that game against Rotherham. So overall, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I think both are going to cancel each other out. And finally, Bristol City versus Preston. Preston tend to have a good record against Bristol City, although Bristol City have done all right quite recently in their recent encounters. Bristol City's form's just been all over the place, and Preston, I just think, now with the goal scoring of Emil Rees-Jacobson, with, as I said, 3 goals in his last 2, if he's fit and is available to play in this game, I think he can eat that Bristol City backline for breakfast, because I really don't rate it for them to concede the 3 goals in the ease that they did against Birmingham. So as a prediction, I'm going to go for a 2-1 away victory to Preston North End. So guys, that is my review of the Championship Matchday 14 complete. If you guys enjoyed this video today, please smash that like button. It really does help the growth of this channel. Please hit the subscribe button if you've not done so. That also really helps. And please also share the channel too. All of that helps well. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary if you're still in this video. And as always, I'll see you guys soon. Take care, everyone.